Hi, good morning, everyone, and welcome to week 6 of the Neighborhood Ambassador Citizens Academy. It's a pleasure to be back here today with you guys all. Today we will be hearing from our Public Safety Department, so all emergency-related preparedness and more. In regards to housekeeping, we have light snacks and refreshments to the left of me, your right, and then restrooms right outside to the right. My left, your left, I'm sorry, I'm going to talk right now on my directions. Also, we highly encourage everyone to please maintain your phones on silent throughout the presentation. So thank you. And then we will turn it over to the Director of Public Safety, Jody Fisk. Thank you.
Can everyone hear me okay?
No.
I'm pretty loud, so if anybody can't hear me, just let me know. My name is Jody Fisk. I'm the Director of Public Safety for Manatee County. Has anybody ever been to this center before? Okay. So we are comprised of 5 divisions within public safety. All of them are probably very familiar to everybody. So we've got EMS, which ambulances, charge paramedics, EMTs, our community paramedicine. We have ECC, or the 911 call center. You might also hear it referred to as a PSAP or a warning point. Beach patrol and water safety. So that's actually one division that's kind of like 2 subdivisions. So we've got our beach patrol lifeguards. They are on the beach 24/7. Those lifeguards are career lifeguards. Then we have our aquatics lifeguards, which are at our pools and our splash pads, and you'll find that they tend to rotate a lot. A lot of them are college students that come home for the summer when our pools get really busy, and then they go back to school, and a lot of them come back. So we do have some full-time aquatic staff, but that's really the biggest distinction between the two, and we'll talk more about them when we get to their division. We have code enforcement, which I think everybody is familiar with. We see their trucks driving around the county. And then we have emergency management, and I saved that one for last because we are in hurricane season, so hopefully we have some good questions for that. Public safety in total is over 400 staff. So we tend to hover around 400 to 420, really depending on the season or where we're at in the hiring cycle. And everybody in public safety is 365 days, 24/7. Most folks typically will work that 40-hour work week. Our 911 operators, our EMS, they're on shift work. But 365 days a year, we are in full operations. So let's talk about EMS. Chief Sean Dwyer is our EMS chief. The total number of EMS staff is 264, which includes the administration and our community paramedicine. On average, our crews respond to almost 5,000 calls per month. So that is significant. Our county population, I think at the last census, was just over 450,000. And just in case anyone hasn't seen a commission meeting lately, we are still growing. So our EMS crews are on the road and busy all day, all night. They are CAS accredited. So what that stands for is the Commission on Accreditation of Ambulance Services. That accreditation puts our Manatee County EMS, EMTs, and paramedics in the top 1% of ambulance providers in the country. That accreditation took over a year for them to do. It is a third-party review. They review policies, procedures, practices. They look at the scope of medical work. They review the staff. So that's a pretty significant accomplishment. We're all really proud of our teams for that. The shifts, I've broken them down. So 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., we've got 24 ambulances on the road, which include 1 advanced life support non-transport. So what that means is it's like an SUV with a paramedic or a district chief who is manning that SUV, who can show up to a scene. They can treat you with advanced life support methods, but they obviously can't toss you into their SUV and transport you from the ambulance. They are there as, let's say, a stopgap to provide the immediate need for care while the ambulances is on the way, and they are both dispatched at the same time. From 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., we have 20 ambulances on the road and 1 non-transport advanced life support unit. 24 hours a day, we have anywhere from 3 to 4 advanced life support supervisors. Those are our district chiefs. They are on the road. They bounce around. Has anyone seen those SUVs? The EMS, it might say district chief on the side. Those guys, if somebody suffers a traumatic injury, they can stop, they can provide that advanced life support care. The community health team, has anybody heard the discussions about opioids or overdoses, the homeless population? Our community health team is the one that tackles the vast majority of that in the county. They connect folks with services, they do education, they do trainings. Has anyone heard of Stop the Bleed? Okay. Our team can actually facilitate that training. So if you have a group of folks in your community who are interested in that, you reach out to us, and members from our community health team will actually come out and do the Stop the Bleed. They'll teach you hands-on CPR. Narcan has become something of great interest. You actually see it now at CVS and Walgreens. So our teams can actually come out and facilitate the training for all of that. Yes. That's one of the things. So there's, with the Narcan, the directions are on there, but let's face it, when there's an emergency happening in front of you, if you're not trained for it, it can be really intimidating, right? You don't necessarily want to take the time out and read the pamphlet. Our teams can teach you how to administer the Narcan that's out there, which is that nose spray. Yes?
How many people would you need in a community to be able to come out and do a training?
There is no minimum. There really isn't. We've got the hurricane presentations, any of these trainings. I don't want to limit a community. If you only have 10 people that step up, that's 10 more people than we had out in the community before that have that training. So there really is no minimum. Any other questions? All right, it's easy. I love it. All right, so moving on to our ECC, or the Emergency Communications Center. Mark Jones is the chief. We have a total number of staff of 60. That does include our administration staff, and then some of the officers that sit within 911. Manatee County is the 13th agency in the country to receive a TRI accreditation, which means they dispatch EMS, fire, and law enforcement. So that accreditation, again, that also took about a year for our staff to get put together. It requires a review of all of their policies, procedures, staffing, all of that. And that is with the International Association of Emergency Dispatch. The vast majority of our supervisory team in ECC is also heavily involved with the national organization, so they do go to the conferences. I think the last one was in Nashville. I never get to go to Nashville for conferences, which is kind of a bummer. And they are in the process of getting their accreditation with the Florida Telecommunications Accreditation Commission, and that actually goes through the Florida Police Chief Association. On average, our dispatchers take 48,000 calls per month. So when we break down their shifts from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., we've got 9 telecommunicators. So those are the first voices you hear when you call 911. From 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., we have an additional 2 telecommunicators that come on shift to support the initial 9. And then 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., we drop back down to 9 telecommunicators unless we have a state of emergency or there's some kind of significant event occurring in the county. Manatee County Sheriff's Office, and you'll see on the tour, they share the space with us. If we receive a phone call that's law enforcement, our team then transfers the call to either MSO, or within the ECC, we also have representation from City of Bradenton and City of Palmetto. So one of the things that's important is all of the stuff that we do, all those articles that come out about the House bills and all the stuff that's going on, there's a lot of discussion about like a regional dispatch center, which would mean one 911 center in every county where every jurisdiction is represented. It's all on the same system, because right now, like City of Bradenton doesn't operate on the same technology platform that we do. So transferring the call to them is a little more cumbersome because you have to give the details and they have to make the screen for their officers. The idea behind this House bill is that everyone's on the same platform, same information, same everything. which would make things easier. But then you get into the matter of, well, who's going to do it? Is the sheriff going to do it? Is public safety going to do it? I make it a point to not get involved with the politicians for those discussions. Let them figure it out. But the good news for Manatee County residents is that we are already doing that. We already have everybody in the same center. We already know each other. So something like that for a county like, say, Miami-Dade, that could be very difficult. Or Collier County, because their sheriff is separate from public safety, is separate from their municipalities. So there would be a lot of integration that had to take place. Any questions on 911?
No, I'm getting to 311, so I'm going to be patient.
Okay. Technically, I don't have 311, but I can answer their basic questions.
Why is it down here, I guess because I'm originally from up north, but why is it down here that you send the fire department, the police department, and the ambulance all at the same time?
So typically it depends on the call. So it's who is available, who is the closest, and who has the capability to handle it. So if you have a call for, say, an assault, we're going to send the police, but we're also going to send an ambulance with that. If the ambulance in that zone is tied up, they might reach out to the fire district and say, hey, you guys have paramedics on staff with your fire trucks, you go too. Sometimes, based on the information on the call, you just don't know the size and scope of what you're dealing with, and you may need all three. So a lot of times the initial, it's called a tone, goes out to all responding, and then whoever gets there first kind of is like, okay, we're good, call this one off, this one can cancel. But it really is an effort to get as much assistance there as possible, and then you can always scale back. Okay? Yes.
I love all these accreditations. What was the initiative that got that moving forward?
The credit for that really does go to the staff in each of the divisions. They make it a point to see what can they do to better themselves and what does that look like. So every division, every facet of public safety, in some form or fashion, there is an organization somewhere that can provide you an accreditation. And it is important that when you take those steps, you understand that you're essentially opening the doors for a third party to come into your agency and tell you literally everything you do wrong. So our staff is incredibly proactive. You know, the team that's up there, they are constantly looking for ways to improve. They're always looking at, okay, we have this level of technology, what's the next thing that we could do? If we integrate that, is that going to cost us our accreditation? I've dealt with agencies before where they're not accredited, which is okay, but their standards of practice tend to fall below what we would do. So they may not log every time the radio queues up. They may not be able to track as well or as accurately basic information. And so by doing this, it is almost a way for the public to know we are so confident in what we do. Come in and take a look at it. Tear it apart, tell us how to improve, and we will take the steps to do it.
Jody, can you let them know what the benchmarks are for answering a 911 call, dispatching a 911 call, and how long it takes, what your benchmark is for getting out of the state, your EMS people getting out of the station?
Oh, the shoot time?
And responding. I'm sorry, I
You
didn't.
mean the shoot time?
Whatever it's called now, I don't.
Okay. So I'll verify this with Deputy Director Crutchfield. I think that if I remember correctly, it is 60 seconds from the time of the dispatch call to bodies into a vehicle on the road. So from the time you call 911, they get your critical information, and one of the questions they ask you is this fire, medical, or law enforcement? That's determining who are they prioritizing for the call. So from the time that tone goes out, 60 seconds, everybody is on the move in the vehicle and they have responded on the radio, Alpha 20 responding. That's all very trackable. So that's for EMS. Now, I won't speak to the fire districts or for law enforcement because I'm not over them, so I don't know what their standard is, but I would imagine it's the same, if not really close.
It's same for fire. So what about what about call taking? Is there a standard with your accreditation that they have to pick up the phone and start the initial 911 process? And how long does that take from there to be toned out?
For the accreditation, I believe every single phone call is answered within the first 10 seconds. Now, there are times where the call center is so overwhelmed that we go into a surge protocol. So there have been times where people have called 911 and you get a recording that says, basically, we're going to call you back. I've actually encountered that myself. Within 30 seconds, I had a call back. So there are procedures in place to guarantee that even if you call 911 and you get that message, someone is going to call you back. But it's about 30 seconds.
Thank you.
If you're picked up by an ambulance and it's not too serious, are you able to say what hospital you want to go to?
As a general rule, no. And here's why. There was a period of time where the EMS crews were picking people up and they might be just a few blocks from Manatee Memorial and that's the closest center. And that person would say, but my doctor's at Sarasota Memorial. I want to go to Sarasota Memorial. And not to sound harsh or blunt, but EMS is not Uber. When an ambulance picks you up, they're going to get you to the place that you need care as fast as they can. And that's a couple of reasons. First off, obviously, we don't want you to die, right? We want to get you into the hands of physicians. Second, the sooner that ambulance gets a patient to the hospital and drops them off, they get back on the road and they're back in service. Now, are there exceptions to that? Sure. But as a general rule, no. Our crews will do the very best that they can, and it really does depend on the call volume at the time, what's going on, what the nature of your emergency is. But you know, we stepped back from that practice of acting as a taxi service for folks who were calling 911 for something that really wasn't non-emergent, and then putting our ambulance out of service for hours at a time.
Do you refer them then to like 211?
If it's non-emergent? Yeah. So we actually we included telehealth with 911 dispatch. So when somebody calls and they're running through their list of symptoms, if it's a non-emergent call, our dispatchers will actually connect them to telehealth, and then they get to clear our 911 system, but they're still being connected to a doctor who can talk them through what's going on. And then that doctor may say, you need to follow up with your primary care, or hey, you know what, you didn't mention this to the dispatcher. We're going to reach back out and tell them what's going on. So there is a mechanism in place, and that did do, that significantly freed up a lot of calls that were coming in.
And what do you do? What is your setup during a hurricane?
So I'll actually get to that. We're going to lump that into emergency management and how we staff for hurricanes. Yes, ma'am.
Who handles the telehealth?
It's through Teladoc, and it is, I want to say it's Optum, but I can verify that for you.
Is there any kind of cost breakdown into what an average ambulance run costs the county? And then what do they charge the individual that's picked up? If that individual doesn't have insurance to cover it, how does that get handled in terms of keeping the county funded to run the program?
So within EMS, we have a billing division, and so they handle the billing strictly for EMS. So I can get that for you. I don't want to guess on that because I know that there's a difference between those who have insurance and those who don't and how that cost breaks down, but I don't want to guess on it. But I can get that information to Jessica and the team, and they'll push it out to the class.
And does the organization have a breakdown of what a run costs, like the average run?
Yeah, we can get that. And like I said, I don't want to guess on it because it could be anything, and I don't want to lowball it and say this is what it is, and then, you know, we've got METV, I don't want them, but Jody said it was only $100. Sure. Anything else? Okay. So beach patrol and water safety. This division I have to give kudos to, because when I first came in as the director, I think it was 2023, they were at critical staffing levels. They were incredibly understaffed. They had a lot of people that were leaving. They were beach lifeguards or pool lifeguards, and that was it. We changed that. So we now currently have 52 total water staff between the beach and the pools. Every single beach lifeguard holds Red Cross certifications. The vast majority of them are ENTs. Some of them are actually charge paramedics. They also were able to get trained on a voluntary basis. I couldn't compel them to do it, but a significant number of them got trained in swift water and urban search and rescue. And then we have members of the team that are certified in dive rescue. None of which I am willing to do, because they go in the ocean and there are sharks. The aquatics team, in an effort to give a little bit of a cost savings to the county, prior to probably 2-3 years ago, property management was being handed the job of doing all the maintenance for the pools. Well, they couldn't do that, so that had to go to a third-party contractor who then went out, and I don't even know what they charged. However, Chet Brown is our chief of Beach Patrol and Water Safety. He started the momentum. He went out and got certified to do pool maintenance and maintenance on the splash pads. Captain Linksweiler with him took that next step, and then some other folks within the division took that step as well. So now our aquatics lifeguards handle the pool maintenance, basic repair for equipment. They can identify what the problem is. We only have to bring in a contractor now if we're like, hey, this giant piece needs to be replaced, and none of us know how to do that. So they have continued that, and that cost savings, when you think about it, I can brag about it and say I know that at one point it was a cost savings of about $60,000 a year. Given the size of our budget, okay, you can't even say that's a drop in the bucket. That's like a misty little piece of rain coming out of the sky. But I'm still proud of the team for taking the initiative to do that. So Beach Patrol is in charge of water safety on the beach. We have our towers, 2 lifeguards in each tower, and they man that during the day. We do not have lifeguards in there at night, because really, you shouldn't be swimming in the ocean at night. I know some people like to do it, but that's how you end up on the Discovery Channel. So I'm saying, there was actually a list of the top 5 ways to not get attacked by a shark. And you know what was not on the list? Stay out of the water. So in addition to their regular duties on the beach, their regular duties at the pool, they also do a lot of community outreach. They are able to do CPR. They are able to teach basic first aid. Our aquatics team actually stepped up to relieve our EMS teams, because during a hurricane, we have the shelters. We are always going to have some kind of medical care in the shelter. It's basic first aid, because the idea is that you're really in there overnight. However, the aquatics lifeguards saw the need. They got certified as EMTs. Now, when we have a hurricane, they operate as that basic first aid team to go into our shelters. So our EMS crews, we don't have an EMS crew that has to man the shelter all night long, and then as soon as daylight breaks, get back out on the road and start running calls. So the divisions work very closely with each other. The beach lifeguards also are responsible to handle some of the medical calls that come off the water. So that that area right on Gulf Drive, they do assist with that. They really have done an incredible job in what they do. And so I will say it again, the beach lifeguards, these are the career lifeguards. Like the Baywatch, this is what they've dedicated themselves to. We have a number of them in aquatics as well, but aquatics really is a great opportunity for folks to come in, especially in the summertime, get that OPS, learn how the county works, spend your day at the pool. So their program has grown exponentially. They just got a high water rescue vehicle, which as soon as it's finished doing whatever it is they're doing, putting the logo on, making sure everything works, we will have that here in the county as another high water rescue asset. There's a lot of stuff that's going to be lumped into emergency management, so we will get to that one. Does anybody have any questions on Beach Patrol or aquatics?
Yeah, Jody, there was a while back, probably maybe before you came here, that there was a misconception that the lifeguards are actually all the way up and down the beaches.
Correct.
So how are you getting that message out to those who come in vacation here that your lifeguards are only at your county public beaches?
So what they're doing is trying to push out the messaging about like, look for the flags. If you see the flags by the tower, they have ways to indicate that they're there. Because the lifeguards have been working so much with the municipalities now, and we do have the additional 2 temporary towers that we can move, we're doing our best to make sure that folks know, like, hey, look, if you're going out to Bean Point, you are at your own risk. Dial 911 if you get into trouble, and we will send that Marine unit out there. But I think it's a difficult message to put together because it's 11 miles, right?
Has the county ever thought about putting flags up at like Gulf Drive and Manatee Avenue for those who do not go to the actual public beach or
Yep.
Cortez Road and Gulf Drive, so that if they go out, they can at least see
Correct.
the flag?
So they've been installing those. We were starting to install them last summer. And then last summer went the way the last summer went. So they kind of had to start over. But every morning our lifeguards will go up and down the beach and they will put the flags up based on the current marine conditions. They're still doing that for as many boxes as we have. And so they're still continuing to install them and get the flags up. So we do try to push a lot of messaging, especially on social and with the media, for if you see a red flag, red means stop. Don't go in the ocean, because then one of us is going to have to go out there and get you. So there is, I don't know if you've seen it, it's all the different color flags. I think purple is like dangerous marine life, which I feel like is a given. Then you got yellow, red, and green. So they do put the flags out. We make sure to push the messaging, and then we also push the marine warnings. I think who gets the Everbridge at 3 o'clock in the morning? So you'll get a message that says dangerous marine conditions or RIP conditions. So we also mirror that messaging as well.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So this talks a little bit about the teams in gray skies. The aquatics team will go, gray skies, by the way, is when a storm is coming. So right now we're in blue skies. It's beautiful outside. Hurricane Center says no tropical development for at least the next 7 days. Everything is normal. Gray skies is when we step up and we see the hurricane coming and we are starting to ramp up operations. So when that happens and we start closing county pools and county facilities, our aquatics team is responsible to go out and secure everything on the pools. Chairs, flotation devices, anything that can get picked up and blown away, our team is out there securing it. We have rapid response teams with the Marine unit. They tag up with Manatee County Sheriff's Office, the Coast Guard, and the federal teams that come in. All of our rescue equipment for beach patrol for water rescue is staged. That includes the high water vehicle. They have these really handy surfboards that have handles all over them. Jet skis. We've got John boats for going into those neighborhoods that are flooded. That stuff is all staged, nowhere near the beach. We move that way far away from the coast. And then we have staff here. You can see here at our table, we got beach and water safety. They man the table 24 hours a day with us when we are at full level 1 operations for disaster response. Search and rescue operations, everyone knows search and rescue. So the federal teams, we call them the federal teams. To be clear, Florida has 7 task forces in the state that are certified in urban search and rescue. They are the best. So those teams come together, they are activated kind of under that federal declaration so they can provide mutual aid throughout the state. Our lifeguards, when those teams come in, they tag on to those teams to support however they can. There is no other lifeguard division in the state of Florida that has lifeguards that can do that. Moving on to code enforcement. And I'm going to go ahead and guess that we have some questions about code enforcement.
Before you do that, can I ask a question about the pools?
Yes.
The lifeguards look like they do a lot. I've actually never been to a community pool.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have some sort of security there related to, worried about like child predators?
So they are not assigned to the pools, right? If we have an event where we know we're going to have a large crowd, we coordinate with whatever law enforcement jurisdiction has control over that. We also have the capability to contract private security. So say one of our pools, we know we have an issue with someone who keeps showing up that shouldn't show up, we can trespass that person, and then we can request either law enforcement to be on site for X amount of days, or we'll contract a private security officer to come.
Okay, so there's some sort of training that they know.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. If the lifeguards feel like something is off, they are going to go talk to that person. They have the authority to tell that person, you know what? You are making everybody uncomfortable. I hope you had a good day. Time for you to go home. And then if that person says, no, I don't want to, it becomes less of a polite question and more of a, okay, they will step away and they'll notify law enforcement.
That's good. That's good to hear. It happened to me, not me, personally, my daughter, when she was like 5 or 6, and the babysitter just she just was freaked out. So.
I've given all of our lifeguards the authority, if you see something wrong, you don't even have to go talk to that person. Give it to law enforcement because it is their job to investigate that kind of thing. So any of our staff can literally say, this is a problem, let the proper authority handle it. Our lifeguards are not investigators. So if they see something wrong or somebody reports something, they can notify law enforcement. Yes.
I've done that, and they're gonna say, this is not a crime.
Yes,
And
they can do that.
code enforcement, Mr. Reese, says, well, I don't know why, but he's declining the service. There's
The sheriff's office or?
no, the sheriff.
enforcement.
I went to the Citizen Law Enforcement Academy as well, and they also claimed that anything by a code of ethics, chapter 112, part 3, has nothing to do with the law that they're going to cooperate with. They have to wait till physical harassment occurs, and then they will take a step forward.
For a crime. Right. So it's a fine line, right? Trespass, anybody can be trespassed really for anything. Like any business owner, truthfully, even the county can just say, you know what, you are just a problem when you're here. You are a problem for our staff. You are a problem for our patrons. You can still be trespassed. Law enforcement can issue the trespass order, or code enforcement can issue a trespass order on county property only.
And what happens if a worker of the government is not following their own bylaw?
As far as not reporting?
As far as
Or not following procedure?
not following procedure?
That actually, you can report that. I mean, if it's one of my folks, you can call me.
No.
I mean, we'll look into it. If a county employee is not following county policy, that needs to be reported to that person's supervisor for proper steps to be taken.
What I'm looking at now is that now this is affiliated with the municipal, but that is also according to the land. It's saying the code enforcement is a service provided by the city to help ensure compliance with the city ordinances. And this is having to do with property maintenance code, the minimum maintenance standards, land use regulation. And if something of a lease agreement is validating what needs to be accommodated on a standard basis, such as just basically, if there's a playground, they must collaborate with what they are assigned to perform on a standard basis, and it's not, then who is to be? Now, what I understand is Manatee County has nothing to do with it because it's a city.
Correct.
But when I called 311, it was the city ordinances version, but then they connected me to Manatee County.
Right. So I don't think 311 can connect you to the municipality, but get with me after this so I can get some specifics, and we'll make sure that it goes to the right person, because our code enforcement division can push it to the city, but once it gets pushed to them, it's kind of out of our hands, right? Like, we don't have the jurisdiction to go into the city to enforce the ordinances unless the city is requesting mutual aid support from the county. That typically doesn't happen unless there's a state of emergency. And then it's really for damage assessment. But I'll get some more details from you afterwards, and we'll look into it to see what we got. Of course. So we have 24 total officers in code enforcement. Every single officer is assigned a zone within the county. We will get complaints by email, by 311, direct phone calls. We have had people walk straight into the building and say, I am here to talk to code enforcement. And they can do a complaint that way. State statute says there are no anonymous complaints allowed. So just know if you're calling code enforcement on your neighbor's gonna know that you were the one that called. Every officer, if they are not actively working a complaint that has been handed to them, they are required to drive around their zone every day and look to see, are there violations occurring? Outdoor storage, trash, debris that's piled up, vehicles that don't work, that don't have the proper tag, a license plate that just don't work and they're just sitting in the front yard. That is the responsibility of code enforcement, and once an officer sees that, they are able to initiate a case on that and let the homeowner know, like, hey, you got to handle this. You've got X amount of time to do it. Our officers have moved really away from the hard line of like, you've got 10 days, and at the end of 10 days, then we're going to take it to the next step. And they are doing a very good job of trying to work with the residents. If there's a big pile of debris in their front yard, they're going to ask you, what's going on? What we have found, especially in the last year, is we still have a lot of residents that are like, look, I just cleaned out my yard from the hurricane. I just got the equipment, or I just got the help. Our officers are going to work with you on that and tell you, okay, tell you what, I'm going to come back in like another week. If it's still here, let's see what else is going on. It's like a more compassionate level of enforcement. If the lawn is overgrown, they're going to knock on your front door and be like, hey, what's going on? Because it could be like my husband who, like, I will mow the lawn when it looks like a jungle. Or it could be an 89-year-old lady whose grandson was mowing her lawn for her every week, who has gone to college and now she has no one to do it. So we're not going to violate her for that. We're going to set her up with a service through Community and Veteran Services or a local nonprofit that's going to send somebody out there to do her yard. We don't need to violate her or fine her for that, right? So their overall mission is to protect the health and safety for residents, business, and visitors. Yes.
I think that was beautiful, because I think it's the unknown that is being dismissed, and it's the appreciation of the instructions. So tell your group or whoever that it's not a legal advice, because they use that as a way of protecting themselves, saying I cannot. What you just said, they would not do that. They would just say, I'm sorry, this is a legal situation. We cannot give you legal advice. Is there anything else I can help you with?
Right. So the officers really can't provide any kind of legal, but what they can tell you is they can direct you to like the land development code, the statute, the ordinance. And truthfully, Chief Wooten, I think he and I talk like 5 times a day. Anytime a resident reaches out to him with an issue, his first question to me is, can we do X, Y, or Z? If there's a legal question involved, I'm not an attorney. I don't play one on TV. I haven't even watched enough Law and Order to begin to venture a guess. I'm going to push that to the county attorney's office, and with the resident question, resident wants to know this, go forth and do great things. Our officers do their best to get out there. They do get very difficult questions. There are times where they will get a resident that is like, we're not leaving this site until you look up this law and tell me how you're applying it. Our officers do not have the ability to compel you to fix a violation, right? There's literally nothing my officers can do if they come out there and give you a violation and you look them dead in their face and throw it in the trash. All they can do is follow the procedure, which you get your violation, you have a time to comply. If you miss it, you get sent to the special magistrate. The special magistrate can issue one-time fine, daily fines, depending on what it is. But at the end of the day, that's what they do. It's an administrative cost. They are not going to arrest you. They are not going to detain you. They do not have the authority to do that. They are strictly there to let you know this is the code or the ordinance or the statute. This is why you're in violation. Here is the time period to fix it. If it's not, then the next steps.
I just also wanted to mention, we are an unincorporated Manatee County. The cities have their own code enforcement.
Yes.
So even though the laws are the same,
Mm-hmm.
there's different ways of doing the same thing.
Correct. We have no jurisdiction over the cities. So where my officers have been instructed, investigate and find out what the situation is, the city may not have that same direction. And I'll be perfectly transparent. That was my own bias that drove that. I was working in this, as a regional coordinator for the state and got deployed for Hurricane Michael. At the time, my oldest was, I should know this. I want to say she was like 3.5. My youngest was just about a year, and my husband was home with them. I was supposed to be gone for 7 days. 7 days turned into 31. He did not mow the lawn while I was gone because he can't look at the toddler and be like, hey, make sure the youngest one doesn't kill himself. Code enforcement for City of Cape Coral came through and just stuck a Post-it note on the door with the violation that the yard was overgrown. And that really ticked me off because it was like, you know, if you had just knocked on the door, my husband could have explained that I'm responding to a Category 5 hurricane and he's by himself, and maybe a conversation could have been had. So coming to the county, being with code enforcement, I was really stuck on the overgrown lawn because that's really just going to irritate me for the rest of all time. But that was really the driving factor behind, you got to talk to people and find out what their situation is. Don't just assume that people are violating something to violate it, find out why. If you get a person who's just like, here's the finger and I'm going to do what I want, feel free, give them the violation. But find out what's going on. During Gray Skies, our code enforcement completely switches gears. So who has seen our post about the sandbag sites in the county? Awesome. Last year, we started a program where for our elderly residents and physically disabled, our code enforcement officers will deliver the sandbags to them when a storm is coming. We are continuing that this year. Last year, they made hundreds of deliveries. They were dropping pallets at community centers. They were dropping them in neighborhoods where people were calling and saying, you know what? I've got 10 neighbors. We all need sandbags. Can you please use my driveway? Just drop the pallet. And they did. That's very storm dependent, by the way. Like if it's a level, you know, Category 1 or a tropical storm, probably not. That is very exclusive, by the way, to levels A and B. We focus on those areas because that is where the greatest need is going to be. Once we handle that, C, D, and E, we will do our very best to get out there. So they will continue to do that this year. Yes?
Do you just do that in the county and not the city?
So when we go into a local state of emergency, they're going to go to wherever they get the request. And that's because when that local state of emergency is declared, everyone is on the same team at that point. Not to say that we're not in blue skies, but it becomes a lot easier for people to move among jurisdictions to assist. But our residents can call 311. They're going to be asked the qualifying questions. Once it's confirmed, that gets pushed to us, and Chief Wooten assigns an officer to go out to that area. Yes?
We explain levels A, B, C, D, and E.
Yes, as soon as we get to emergency management. The other thing code enforcement does is infrastructure protection. They will go with public works or utilities around the county to identify vulnerable areas that we might have so that we are able to get things like Tiger Dam to come in and say, go around like a master lift station if we have concerns about that, depending on where it is. Following impact, our code enforcement officers join up with our development services to do damage assessment. Damage assessment is critical, because in order for us to get that federal assistance, we have to meet a certain threshold of damage. That means homes that are destroyed majorly, minorly, maybe they're only affected, county infrastructure, commercial. We have got to get those numbers to the state as quickly as we can because the state sends them to the feds and then the feds tell us, yep, you are included in this major declaration, which starts getting into a whole bunch of stuff, but I will do my best to clear that up during our last segment. But code enforcement does that. Now, we had to push that messaging hard last year. Who is ever happy to see a code enforcement officer show up to their house?
Oh,
Well, I appreciate you. Typically, though, a lot of folks, especially in our lower income areas, which do tend to have higher rates of violation, they see a code enforcement officer and they're like, go pound sand. But our officers, during a hurricane response, we have to work with our community because we've got to see the water line inside your house. You can just open your front door and show it to them. But we had the hardest time during Idalia and Debbie with some folks who were like, I don't want a code enforcement officer to come onto my property. But I need you to want a code enforcement officer to come onto your property because all they're doing is verifying the damage, marking that in a platform called Crisis Track, which then tells me, because if your house is destroyed, I want to know that because that's another checkbox closer to getting that major declaration. So our code enforcement officers do assist with that. They also assist with our points of distribution or pods. So where the National Guard comes out, MREs, water tarps. Only MREs, water, or tarps. That is the state mission. They also help us provide give me situational awareness. So if an officer goes out to do damage assessments and comes across 5 power lines that are laying across a house, they're going to call us immediately and say, hey, this is going on, get a crew out here. They can also be used for traffic management. So last year, following Helene, you would see code enforcement officers all over Gulf Drive supporting all of the police officers that came in for mutual aid because we don't want you to drive down a road that is flooded out that may or may not have a big hole in the middle of it. They can assist with that. So probably during a hurricane, they are like a jack of all trades. If I need something done in the field, chances are I'm going to task it to a code enforcement officer to go out and get it done. Yes.
When it comes to code enforcement and finding violations, do you find more among rental properties than privately owned, or is it about the same?
I'm not sure. I would have to ask the chief for the breakdown of that. I would imagine it's about the same. They really they're focusing on the violation itself. So if it's outdoor storage, they go in, and whether it's the resident or the homeowner. So I can get that breakdown though. Yep. Oh, sorry.
When code enforcement has been called for someone, I'm on our board for our neighborhood, and we kind of pride ourselves on being the friendly HOA. Mm-hmm. We do the go out and talk to somebody, and but we have a couple of residents that are habitual offenders in terms of, we've got one guy that has farm implements and huge trailers and flatbed trucks with cars on them, and he has a corner house. Mm-hmm. And we have had numerous people friendly talk to him. I called code enforcement, mm-hmm. and I knew he would look up who called because he's very threatening, but it was just, really out of control. Mm-hmm. For a few days, there weren't vehicles parked on the grass, but now they're parked there again. Like right now, there's a big trailer with a mattress sitting in it. There's a pickup truck with a car hauler on it and a car sitting on it. And, mm-hmm. But I mean, there were at times like 8 or 10 vehicles parked on the corner lot. Yeah, and this is not a poor guy. Mm-hmm. This is, and then we've got another neighbor that habitually has a pickup truck and an inoperable car and debris on the side of their house that we've also politely talked to numerous times. And they say, oh, no problem, we'll clean it up, but they never do. Mm-hmm. I called code enforcement as a last resort, but the stuff is still there. Mm-hmm. So what, does code enforcement not able to enforce that or anything? What? So
we cannot force him. They issue the violation. He's aware of the violation because he does have to sign it. He has to acknowledge that he has received it. But they have to follow the administrative process. So for every single time he does that, that's a new case. So they have to initiate.
Calling code enforcement?
Yes.
Or, oh, okay.
Because it's not an actual crime to my knowledge, it's right. This guy is just doing what he does. It's a new case every single time. So at some point, you really would hope that the amount of dollars you're spending in fines would deter you from that action. But We cannot, like, there's no mechanism where code enforcement can go out there and say, okay, you didn't remove your stuff, so we are going to call a tow truck to come pick up your stuff and take it away. They can't do that. They can assist the resident if the resident says, like, I can't afford to do that. Okay, let us help you with that. But they cannot force you to comply. All they can do is follow the administrative process, and the hope is that the dollars you spend are the deterrents for you doing it again.
You just have to keep calling code
ma'am.
enforcement on it. It doesn't feel very friendly, but we can't.
doesn't.
We just,
Right.
I know money is not an issue. This is a business owner. He's got a very nice house. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know why he wants to junk it up all the time, but, and with it being a corner lot, everybody sees it going
Right.
through the neighborhood. So we get a lot of people saying, why aren't you doing something about this? Like, well,
Yeah, unless it poses a life safety risk, and even at that point, it would just be, the officer has the option, like if it's a habitual offender, they do have the option to go straight to a special magistrate hearing and say, we're just gonna take you straight to the magistrate. We're not gonna do that 30-day compliance period. You've had the opportunity, we're going to magistrate. The magistrate can, I've seen fine amounts of $500 a day issued to people. I think that's the maximum that the magistrate can do. And I don't have $500 a day to pay in fines.
If they just don't pay the fines.
So if they don't pay the fines, I have to verify that, because I think at that point, then you move into another administrative process where they can put liens on property. Like, at some point it is going to catch up with you, and it's going to have a dollar amount attached to it. So when it gets to that point, a lot of times there are folks that have waited till it got to that point where they've got $100,000 stacked up against them. They finally come into compliance, and then they have to go through a process to say, okay, sorry, but I can pay you $100. And then the magistrate will determine if the amount that they're proposing to settle it because they're now in compliance is acceptable. And then once the magistrate approves that, it comes back to me.
Yeah, also, when you go to try to sell your property, you find out you've got a lien on your
Yep.
property. What about unlicensed contractors?
So you have a couple of different options there. You can certainly go to code enforcement. You can call the sheriff's office. You can contact the state's attorney's office. There's actually a line that's set up for unlicensed contracting. I think there was just a story like a month ago. Manatee County Sheriffs and Manatee County Code Enforcement were part of a sting operation. I think they picked up like 9 folks who were unlicensed contractors or who were scamming people. So that is something that the state of Florida takes really seriously. I remember when Pam Bondi was still our AG, and she was on one of our state calls during a hurricane, and somebody brought up unlicensed contractors, and I am pretty scrappy myself, but I would not want to make that woman mad. She was not happy about hearing that, and it was like that. So there's people who do the unlicensed contracting in this state, good luck. But there are multiple mechanisms to deal with that.
And what about fire inspections on new buildings?
So that, in any kind of inspection actually falls under development services, and they do the inspections. So they have inspectors and they work with the fire marshals, but that's separate from code enforcement. I know, it's a lot of back and forth and shifting between departments for who does what. Anything else?
I'll get back with you.
Okay. So, yes, ma'am.
So I just want to say thank you for spelling out your mnemonics and your acronyms.
Oh, sure.
It's very helpful.
I have to, because I know that I say them and I don't even realize I've done it. My dad yells at me all the time, which is ironic because he was a fighter pilot. So he gets on me about acronyms, but he said something the other day and it was like, I don't know what you just said. Emergency management. We are in the season, in case anybody missed it. Hurricane season started. So we are incredibly lucky in our county. We actually have a total of 7 full-time emergency management staff. I have been to counties where they have 1, and that person doubles as something else in a department. It is crazy. We've got 7. Chief Matt Myers actually started with public safety in 911 telecommunications and then moved over to emergency management. During blue skies, they are still very busy. So the Manatee County is required by state statute to have a comprehensive emergency management plan. That document is only about 400 pages, and it literally covers any and everything that could happen in the county. I think the only thing that we're missing is volcanoes and zombie apocalypse. And you laugh at that, Okeechobee County, in their comprehensive emergency management plan, does actually have a zombie apocalypse annex. I'm gonna do it here, I swear. The state reviews our comprehensive emergency management plan every 2 years to make sure that we are in compliance with everything and that we are following the rules. So that plan, that's the big plan for everything in the county. We have a lot of little plans that are like 3 and 4 pages long for incidents that may happen, like how are we going to support if there's a Surfside building collapse? How are we going to support if there's an active assailant somewhere in the county? So on and so forth. We also run and coordinate, but we are not in charge of something called the Local Mitigation Strategy Work Group, or our LMS. You've seen all the posts about the CDBG funds, the grant funding. There's another grant that comes into the county, the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program. That program is dollars allocated for specific events. So there's an HMGP grant for Debbie, for Helene, for Milton, for Ian, go all the way back. The LMS is comprised of county, municipal, stakeholders, fire districts as partners, and everyone sits in that group and they propose projects to allow for mitigation, mitigation projects in the county. I'm not going to get into all the ins and outs of it because frankly I don't know all the ins and outs of it. I know that it gets very in the weeds. The bottom line is that year-round, this group meets once a quarter and they are constantly looking for different projects. That can be the city looking to reinforce lift stations, technology. It can be, hey, how do we elevate this property that continues to fail us during a hurricane? Any number of things. Once they submit the project, the group votes on it, it moves forward, and then sometime later the funding is released, the project goes through. I want to make sure that I'm really clear. This is not a fast process. You're dealing with local, state, and federal government. So every single project has to meet a certain level of criteria to move forward, to be approved. There are very good projects, but you have to look at that as a very long-term plan. But every single disaster opens up additional money. We see additional gaps, additional projects are presented.
Does it have to be money? Can it just be a continuation of policy that is being rejected upon, or they say when you know something but you don't do it, you're being stupid rather than ignorant. So they're avoiding. Is that something that is an emergency management for the LMS, the local mitigation strategy? Or does it have to be with money?
It's got to be dollars. Like it's looking at something that will cost me dollars to reinforce or harden. The team is also doing trainings and presentations year-round. We actually have 2 staff that are certified trainers for FDEM, the Florida Division of Emergency Management. They can teach the emergency management classes from FEMA. They are working on preparedness, so they're working on messaging. We're sharing messaging. They're going out into the community and doing, whether it's a job fair or it's a touch-a-truck or anything like that, they are going out with all of our information for how to sign up for alerts, how to be ready for a hurricane, how do you look up your evacuation level, any number of things, and they are doing that year-round. They are also coordinating with all responding agencies for what we practice and the majority of counties practice in the state, which is the all hazards disaster planning. Most people hear emergency management and they immediately jump to hurricane. That's what we do is hurricanes. More recently, they are jumping to, okay, they do wildfires. It's everything. We practice and train and learn and work with our partner agencies for any and everything. Like I said, I think the only thing we're missing is volcanoes and blizzards. So There is something that they are constantly working on with our team year round. They're going to trainings, they are networking. This past year, they have been incredibly hard at work enhancing our technology for real-time data gathering during a storm. We're really excited about it, but it's kind of like a shark-proof suit, right? Like, I think it's gonna work really, really well. We tested it out during during Helene and Milton, but I'm gonna run the legs off the system when we take the next impact. I just really don't wanna do it. So we will be sharing that technology and showing you all of these dashboards once we're completed here. Okay, hurricanes, gray sky activations. We are currently at a level 3 activation, which means we are just at work 8 to 5. Nothing is going on that we are aware of right now. When we start tracking a hurricane, how far out do you think we're tracking it?
Leaves the coast of Africa?
Correct. We literally sit there and stalk the weather. When we see it coming off Africa, we're like, hey, did you see that thing come off Africa? We make our jokes about how the fact that we are just not going to deal with it. We are looking at our plans anywhere from 5 to 9 days out. Because now we know as soon as it crosses a certain threshold and it's going to become a hurricane, or we know it's a hurricane, okay, we're tracking it. For us, we will move from a level 3 to a level 2, which is the enhanced monitoring, probably about 3 days out. We know it's gonna hit Florida, we're just not sure where. Anywhere from the Keys to the Panhandle. However, what we are doing at that point are we are rounding up staff. We're talking to Public Works. We're talking to utilities. We're asking them, hey, is this area clear? Do we have enough sandbags? Start gathering your staff. Let them know that volunteers may be needed for sandbags or for answering phone calls. We're telling our folks, hey, go prep your house. Make sure your family is good. Go get your last minute supplies, because I do it. So I'm not very forgiving when we're a day out and someone's like, hey, by the way, I forgot to go buy groceries for my family this week. I'm gonna let you go do it, but I am gonna be irritated. We're prepping our staff. When we move to a level 1, that's 24-hour operations. Within this room, we probably have anywhere from 100 to 200 people. Every one of these tables is occupied. We have an alpha shift, which is typically 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Then there's the Bravo shift that comes in 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. There's overlap between the shifts because when I come in to relieve you, you're gonna tell me everything that happened during your operational period, and I'm gonna make note of it, and then when we swap the next day, same thing happens. That takes about an hour to do. We then tell our folks who get off shift, go to sleep. We all lie and say that we do. So on and so forth. Until landfall, we do the initial assessment. I do my very best to not have people have to stay here more than 2 nights. That said, I make no promises, pack for 5. We are the coordinating arm for the county for a hurricane response. When the local state of emergency is signed, in theory, and he has said it, so I'll say it, Charlie Bishop reports to me. We are making the decisions. So what we have, and I will let everyone take this is our battle rhythm. So I'll give you some of the main meetings that are required for our command staff, and that doesn't include all the little meetings that happen in between. We will start the day with a 7 a.m. call with the National Weather Service in Tampa. They give us a briefing. We have an 8 a.m. briefing here in this room where every single one of our emergency support functions has to brief out. What are your critical unmet needs? What are your gaps? What missions do you need us to get into this state or have not been fulfilled yet? We have a 9 a.m. call with the Florida Division of Emergency Management Regional Coordinator, where we talk to all of the other counties that are located within our region, which for the state is 6. So that's us, Pinellas, Hillsborough, Hernando, Pasco, and 2 others that I can't remember. DeSoto is not in our region anymore.
Really?
Yep, neither is Sarasota.
Really?
The state went from 7 regions to 10. So we are split now. We still talk to each other, but as far as the state is concerned, we are separate regions. We then have an 11:15 call with the state, with FDEM. That is the state, in some cases, the governor's office, National Hurricane Center. They also will include their hydrology department to tell us what kind of storm surge we could be expecting or riverine and river flooding. We then move to a noon. It's called a MAC, Multi-Agency Coordination. That is the county board chair, the county administrator, command staff here in the EOC, the mayors, the police chiefs, the county attorney, and I believe the clerk's office has the option to join that as well. That is only those people on the call. That call is to make decisions. Are we closing the bridges? Is there going to be reentry? What do you need? What are your concerns? How can we address them? We then have a 1 p.m. call again with the National Weather Service to give us an additional update. We have a 5:15 call with the state again. We have a 7 p.m. call again with the National Weather Service for another update, and then an 8 p.m. briefing here to close out the operational period. Those are the mandatory meetings for our command staff. That doesn't count logistics meetings, operations meetings, response meetings, resourcing, planning. The people in this room, when we activate for a hurricane, they are moving. So that's daily. That is every single shift. The only folks who are spared all of those phone calls are the Bravo shift. If it's really bad, you will have a 1 a.m. call with the National Weather Service in Tampa. That's still happening. I don't care what the internet says. Do not believe the Google. The Weather Service is here with us. The state is operating as always. FEMA is with us this season. I don't know what next season looks like. I know what this season looks like, and that's where my focus is for right now. When we talk about response planning and deployment of personnel and resources, it is storm dependent. If it's a tropical storm, chances are I don't need a federal USAR team. I don't need high water rescue. I don't need Tiger Dam. But if it's a Cat 3, I want all of the stuff and things. Because if we're looking at a Category 3, we are posturing for a Category 4. We are going to be glass half empty during a hurricane, folks. We are going to assume it's just going to get worse. So we're going to plan for that worst case. The command structure in the county, as I said, when the local state of emergency is signed, I become the authority. And let's be honest, yes, that is true, but I still have conversations with Charlie. He stays here with us in the EOC. That is pretty unique to Manatee County, and I want to be clear about that because I have been to 33 of the 67 counties in this state to respond to an incident, and I can count on one hand the amount of counties where their county administrator does anything more than show up, pat someone on the head, and say, "Good job," and then they go and they evacuate with their families. Charlie Bishop stays here the whole time, unless he's out driving around the county and calling in what he is seeing to us. The DCAs are all here, so it goes myself, we've got Charlie, the board chair is here. They're not required to be here for the full operation. They do need to be on our noon MAC call because we want all of our elected officials talking to each other that are decision makers at that moment. It's not all the other commissioners. I thought I was going to be in trouble last year because we had the call and I told a few, I was like, "Hey, get out. You can't be here." But I will tell you, Commissioner Ballard can come here anytime she wants because she brings us cookies and cakes. When do you think the process of recovery starts when we see a disaster coming?
Before the disaster hits?
Recovery starts as soon as we stand up to start responding to a storm. We track everybody's hours, we track meals that are purchased, we track resources, we track literally everything that every county staff member does during a storm, because all of that gets lumped in to be sent to FEMA. There's different categories of reimbursement for FEMA. We track it all. If you bought a pen, I want to know about it because it's going to go on a project worksheet somewhere. Response and recovery start at the same time. A good indication for our community that response is wrapping down. Response meaning search and rescue, the pods that are there, anything where you see people actively going out, the comfort stations like portalettes or showers that are in the community. When you see those resources wrapping up, that's a really good indication that we are in a good spot because I'm ramping down. I don't need all that stuff anymore. Power is coming back on or the roads aren't flooded anymore. It is critical that a couple of things happen as soon as landfall is done. I want you out of my shelters. It is a lifeboat. It is not a cruise ship, right? Our shelters are our schools. We push people to go out of the shelters to go check your home. If your home's not livable, that's okay. Come back. We will be making arrangements for you. But we want our shelters closed down as soon as possible so that crews can come in and clean it because I need our kids back in school. Because how many parents can go to work if their kids are not in school? We will keep our shelters open for as long as we need to, but we will downsize as much as we can. Our special needs shelter is for electric dependent people. If I have to plug something into a wall to keep you alive during a storm, that is the shelter you need to go to. If you have asthma, if you have severe allergies, if anything that is not requiring electric, that's not special needs.
What about our autism kids who can't go in a regular shelter because of sensory and everything else?
So there are steps being taken for children with sensory issues to open up classrooms that parents can take them into. That's a conversation with the school district because they staff the shelters. And each principal kind of tell us like what part of the school we can use. They try to keep it to the gymnasium or the cafeteria. They don't necessarily want to open up all the classrooms, but that is actually something that's actually being discussed at the state level. A lot of people have asked that question. I will say that right now, my first answer is, and will always be, make a plan. If I know that my child has sensory issues and is going to be overwhelmed at a shelter, it is irresponsible of me not to make a plan to not go to the shelter, but to go someplace else.
I'm signed up for Nolan Middle, even though you say, they let us in.
That's on the Department of Health. So there are steps that are being made. Every year, check your registry. If you're on the special needs registry, check it, refresh it, make sure they know. That's not to say that if somebody shows up to the special needs shelter and they're not special needs, but the winds are blowing, we're going to kick you out. But we're probably going to be like, hey, next year, don't come here.
The only time I ever had to change was Irma, and they needed to put all the hospital in that one, and we went over to the elementary school, and they did open the classroom.
So there's a lot of stuff that goes into the shelters, right? Technically, I think it's Florida Statute 252, really, once you declare a state of emergency, there are mechanisms where people can say like, okay, we're just not going to ask your permission. We're asking permission to be polite, but we are going to do X, Y, and Z. You don't really ever want to do that because that's kind of your nuclear option, right? Like you only get to do that once. We do have a good partnership with the school district. They work really well with us. So that's something that I think that because it does fall under on the spectrum, the DOH needs to be the one to really drive that because the funding, who's going to buy all the stuff like the fidget spinners or the stuffies or the weighted blankets, we never want anyone to be so overwhelmed in our shelters that they have a panic attack, but there really is only so much that we can do as an agency right now, but that is something that I do know they're having conversations about. And I think it's an important conversation. Once we shut down all that stuff, we're now into recovery. So you're going to see the disaster recovery centers from FEMA. There's something called a MARC, which is a multi-agency resource center that the state can come in, and it's like a one-stop shop. They can bring in DCF, they can bring in ACA, they can bring in the FEMA folks, they can bring in the nonprofits. There really are a number of mechanisms and organizations that step up and want to help during a storm. Who is familiar with something called the COAD? Emergency or Communities Organizing After a Disaster.
Sarah talked about it last week, and
Yep.
we were on Suncoast View.
Our COAD has always existed in the county, right? But it was the first time in 100 years that this county took an impact. The amount of agencies and organizations has exponentially grown. So again, I want to make sure that the message going out to our residents is stop worrying about FEMA. FEMA is not guaranteed to come in. FEMA does not and has not ever had a strong response footprint. They don't come into my EOC and give me support. They don't send teams out into the field to do damage assessments. They don't do that. Never have. FEMA provides the reimbursement and the dollars to our residents after a storm. It's our job to get the data to push to them. These nonprofits and volunteer groups can get it to residents faster. They can do a better assessment of what the needs are. And the fact that a lot of them are from the county or Sarasota or the Suncoast region, they're going to have a better grip of what's going on. So that's my message. Tell your friends. We have been working very hard to get groups together to make sure that our residents get what they need. We can't control the federal government, but they are going to be here this season. So we are still going to push to get our individual assistance, which is dollars in your hand, our public assistance, which is dollars to the county to fix whatever got broken. All of that remains in place. Oh. Ha ha.
My name is Johanna Bevel, and I'm part of our COAD team. So if you know of organizations that want to participate, I have my cards with me. Please reach out to me. Have those agencies reach out to me so that I can send them the application. Sound like a plan? Because we want more and more not-for-profits, for-profit programs, faith-based, all of it. So reach out to me. We also have a website, mymanatee.org/COAD. Stacey, Jody, sorry.
The table that she's sitting at, ESF 15, it's Emergency Support Function 15. That is volunteers and donations. Yes, ma'am.
When you're trying to do your financial assessment,
For FEMA or for the damage assessment?
for FEMA, so you
Okay.
can get reimbursed, are you trying to collect also from residents who've had damage, but it's not like major, like their house hasn't flooded, but, you know, maybe their fences were taken down, or pool cage, or shed, or whatever? Are you trying to capture that? Does that help the county to get?
So that would be considered minor or affected. The biggest thing for the individual assistance, we really want to push hard for like major and destroyed. We're still going to capture minor and affected, but like pool screens, they are not covered. They're really not considered at all.
No, I didn't.
Or fences, but so the damage, depending on what zone we're working in and what we're looking at, we're capturing all of the damage, but there's a certain threshold that we have to meet to get into the other categories of assistance. So we are tracking everything, but something like a fence down or something like that, we're going to note, okay, the fence is down. Unless the fence is across State Road 70, noted, but that's on private property. The homeowner will deal with that. If they need assistance, we will tell them where to go.
Right, yeah, I wasn't really asking about assistance to them, but whether having that data, like should we be talking to neighbors and saying, let the county know so that it can be tabulated for your reimbursement? But I'm hearing you say, no, you don't need that.
So one of the things that we're going to show is for the technology that we've been looking at. We now have access to, I believe it's over 100 wind gauges throughout the county. So we're going to see the wind speeds countywide. We have got, I think it's like 38 or 39 buoys out in the Gulf that are going to be feeding us live data. We have the Manatee County watershed. We have rivers, streams, all of their gauge information. We're going to have data from Lake Manatee. We are tracking so much stuff, but we are targeting our damage assessments. So if I see we have a Helene, we know we had 8 foot of storm surge, guess where I'm pushing my teams? We know we're going to get our numbers. We're targeting the damage assessments because what we did during Milton, because we had Helene, right? 6 days later, Milton was there. We had started and completed the process of assessments for Helene because we knew where the surge was. We knew where the most damage was. Milton, it was the same thing. We saw these wind speeds. We didn't have all the wind gauges at that time because the platform was still very new for us. But we were able to target areas. So we knew that our mobile home parks took some of the hardest impacts from Milton because it was a wind event. That's where we pushed our teams. We pushed our teams out based on power outages, like, okay, we know this is happening. Where's this area? We're targeting our assessments. We're trying to get assistance opened up to the county as fast as possible. And that is a separate operation from the life safety operations. So we're noting all of the damage, but we're capturing the areas that were the most impacted first to get those categories of reimbursement. And then as the teams are finishing those targeted areas, they're then moving out into the rest of the county. Previously, it really was, it's called a windshield assessment, where the teams just go out on the road to their assigned area. Everyone does their assigned area and capture that. That took a little bit longer. Not significantly longer, but it did take like an extra day or two because that's just a big assessment. Whereas if I know Bradenton Beach and everything up into the county from there, like within a 2-mile radius, got clobbered, send 2 teams out there, capture all of that data and work your way back. We were the first county to get into the major declaration last year, and we were the first county in the state to get expedited funding. Because in addition to the information we're getting from the damage assessment, we now have access to the property appraisers' data that we are pulling into our dashboards. So previously we would always say like we're guesstimating for the state and the feds. We're like, well, this is what the building we think it is and estimated damage. I am now able to send a team out to go out to that building, check it, put the data into Crisis Track. It comes to our dashboard with the data coming from the property appraiser to tell me, as of 2024, this is what that building was valued at. So we presented a picture of actual dollar amounts. So that is what we are going to be doing again this year. I hope not, but.
Jody, 2 EM questions. Who is the CERT coordinator for Manatee County now?
CERT meaning CERT?
Yeah.
That was Joel. Joel is Blue Skies. Yeah, so during Gray Skies, we're not really.
So you're not coordinating with the community CERT teams out there in Manatee County or helping them?
So the CERT teams they are presenting their situation reports through the plans unit, and they can call direct to their EM contacts, or they can note to plans, and then.
All right, let me rephrase that. Are you helping establish new CERT teams out there in the communities?
So we've had a couple of requests for communities that want to start CERT teams, but CERT teams you are in your area. Like, we're not pushing CERT teams out into the county-wide operation, but we are encouraging that anybody who is CERT, if they want to do that type of operation, go through the county volunteer process, because then I can put you out. Because then it's the background check is really the biggest thing.
So is there funding for communities like a homeowners association or a CDD to get funding through y'all to put on CERT classes and equipment?
So we will actually do the CERT training for free. Okay. And then any equipment is what is available through the grant funding for the CERT teams when it becomes available.
And actually, last week, Community and Veteran Services Neighborhood Connections Division, we facilitate a grant program called the Neighborhood Enhancement Grant and Neighborhood Action Plan Grant, where equipment could essentially qualify under that grant for certain teams. So it's worth taking a peek. It's up to $10,000 matching reimbursement But if you're interested, please have a conversation with one of us and we'll elaborate on the qualifications.
And CERT is it's Community Emergency Response Team. It used to be Citizen Emergency Response Team, but they shifted the language. Yes, sir.
I just wanted to know if I was a cert. What was I? You just answered.
Okay. So those are it's typically an HOA. Group of residents comes together. They take the training. You learn stuff like basic first aid, very basic fire safety. What is like a damage assessment? Like, what does that look like? But that team, you can go out into your own community following a disaster. But as a CERT team, you may not come out into the county to join operations. That's a big one. We do not like, and you will back me up on this, self-deployment is the worst. Who knows groups like the Cajun Navy? Groups of them are awesome. There are some facets that are super self-sufficient. And then there's a group that will come out and tailgate in your parking lot at the Lowe's for 6 weeks and ask you for things like, I need portalets, I need trash pickup, who's gonna feed me? Can I have a tent? No, I did not ask for you. You get a lot of groups like that, which does bring me to the volunteers and donations. Cash is king. Do not clean out closets. Do not bring me your prom dress or your tuxedo, ski boots. I'm not even kidding. FEMA, a few years ago, I think after Irma, put on a fashion show from the donations that they received to residents in Puerto Rico after Maria. And I gotta be honest, it's Puerto Rico. Have you ever seen anyone in Puerto Rico go, man, I wish I had my ski parka today? Complete with the matching skis, boots, and carrier. There will be information coming out from Support Function 15 through the COAD United Way telling you what people need. Sometimes it's brooms, buckets, mops, bleach. Maybe there's a specific group that says, hey, we deal with children, we need boy sizes 4 to 10. But donations inevitably becomes your disaster within the disaster. During Hurricane Ian, Lee County had to get an Amazon warehouse to store their donations. If you remember the pictures just this past year from California, it was like 3 Costco parking lots. Nothing but stuff that people brought. We know people want to help, and we will 1,000% provide the mechanism to be able to support your neighbors. But I promise you, your neighbor whose house was just decimated by storm surge really does not need the fondue pot that you came across in your garage because you think they might like it.
Presidential Directive 5. Before you became director, I had a request, public records request, and found out that the majority of the board and other government officials did not have minimum ICS classes. How are you tracking that? Do you make sure that they now get those classes?
Kevin Guthrie actually just came here earlier this year and taught, it's called G402, did the basic class. It's not written into state statute yet. I believe it's in Senate Bill 180 right now that is coming out. They do the online classes. They are required to take the FEMA 1, 2, 7, and 8. But what's happening now is the state is taking that, with Governor DeSantis is I think in the bill it's required that they have to take like 300 and 400 or additional classes to understand.
How does our county commissioners shape up for having all the necessary classes as we're working into hurricane season, and any senior government, Manatee County government official? So
I know that Charlie and the DCAs all took them. Okay. Than they did last year, so I do know they took those. I wouldn't commit to the answer, but as part of your onboarding, all county employees are required to take the 1, 2, 7, and 8. That's FEMA courses online.
What is ICS?
Incident Management Command.
Incident Command System. So it's a structure of command, right? It actually started out of the Forestry Service because they figured out that you've got your command post over here, but 80 miles away, you've got 10 crews that are working. So the command structure, basically, during this time, I am the public safety director. Courtney DePaul is my direct report. She reports to Charlie. Under the incident command structure, I've got way more experience doing this than the two of them, right? So I now move up in the chain of command during a disaster as the decision maker with those who wouldn't normally report to me reporting to me. So the incident command system allows for a command structure based on ability and experience rather than title. Yes, ma'am.
Just, I am a certified CERT instructor. I have a class going on right now. And how people contact me is normally through Matt. Matt will get a request from a community that's looking to form, and he forwards it to me. And I usually contact the people and start making arrangements for a class. And that, as an instructor, I'm sure that's how that works.
Thank you.
Yeah, we get a lot of them. It's EMDO at mymanatee.org is a lot of the requests come in. I don't know the specific minimum or if there is the minimum for CERT, but there are some counties that actually rely a lot on their CERT teams to perform a lot of the functions, and those typically are the fiscally constrained counties.
We have over 500 trained CERT members in Manatee County.
I will have no expectation, but I do want to see if I could collaborate what I have. I like what you said, that you're the public safety director, and of the lease excuse me, of the lease agreement of the HACB responsibility, it's decency, safety, and health. Those are the three values that they're responsible for, and of course, they are responsible to fix things, be responsible for inspecting, et cetera, et cetera. So if a house caught on fire and then there's a warning that is put down by the city hall, and then Scott Williams inspected it within a week, but then the Braden Housing declines it, there's a Florida statute of 162.22, and it's saying that if there is a violation, that nothing has occurred, then this code of enforce the violator is to then attack this. But no, it's very conceptual. So what I'm looking at is then how do you disassemble what the executive director is uncertifying or being unsafe for, or being disengaged with the federal house quality standards, the ACOP. Every program that's out there is being denied and it's being approved. In other words, people are just dismissing it, whether it's a city or the Manatee.
For a fire code violation?
That's just one example. Yeah, this is where when the house caught on fire, it's after many decades, the 2x4s get dehydrated and anything can break.
Right.
Yeah, and so the wear and tear is being acknowledged, but it's being, if I was a lady that lived there, that's being now disassembled, what do you call it?
Displaced?
No.
Let me get with you after, because that again is, man, you're like testing my knowledge of state statutes and stuff.
I just want to take care of the concept to
Right.
response
Right.
that you're engaging upon, and I'm having a difficult time.
So if that was something that was occurring during a storm, right, like we would have visibility on that. If it's just a house fire, unless the resident is displaced or it's like an apartment or a nursing home or an ALF, our teams don't really get involved outside of 911 or EMS. For displaced residents in blue skies from a fire, you've got like the Red Cross that can come in to provide housing or assistance for something like that. But this sounds a little bit more in depth. So I want to get the information. But for like, and it's weird because like anything with fire is probably going to fall to the state fire marshal. If it's a code violation, it's going to fall to whatever jurisdiction the code violation falls into. Or if it's somebody just like blatantly disregarding Florida state statute, that's probably the attorney general. So I actually don't know the answer to your question right now, but we will get some more details and I will figure it out. We'll put it together.
The HUD deals with discrimination. I think that's what I was trying to get to.
Okay.
And then much of the Fair Housing Act then just deals with discrimination.
Right.
But then it becomes discrimination because she is an older lady with a disability that needs to then take help with the government because this is a governmental
It's like Section 8 housing?
nonprofit. Yes.
Okay.
Well, no, actually, it's not it's not the house choice voucher. It's a project. It's actually the project-based voucher, which is not a Section 8 because Section 8s can be private. This is 100% government.
Okay, we'll get together before you leave here today.
Jody, I want to go back to EMS. Your priority one calls, your most life-threatening calls, what is the benchmark for response time to those calls?
So we measure by the shoot time because response time is also going to be based on traffic getting there. I really want to say the last time that we looked, like the average response time for a priority one call was anywhere from like 6 to 8 minutes.
But what does the county have a benchmark that they want to arrive at a priority one call within, what is that X, what is that number?
Let me ask Jimmy that. That's going to be a very specific question for Sean, and I don't want to commit them to a number. I mean, the easy answer is as fast as possible. So.
Are you looking at percentiles of that, like how many calls you can reach there in like 80%, 90% of the time, or do you strictly just go by average?
No, so they do a lot of data analysis in EMS to look at what is the average response time to, they break it down by call. What's the average response time to a stroke or to a cardiac event or traumatic injury? And they do have it broken down not just by county, but it can be broken down by district. It can be broken down like this is your station. What's the average time direct from the station or from another scene? So there's any number of ways that they are looking at that data. But I think for that, let's get that subject matter expert to speak to that.
Okay, last question. North River's going to be building a fire station on Buckeye Road. Have you been in any discussions with co-locating an ambulance on Buckeye between I-75 and 301?
The short answer is yes. Anytime a new station is being built, like we're looking at building like substations with MSO. Right. So anytime a new station is built, it's assumed that the conversation is going to be happening or is already happening about are we building out space for our crews. That's going to be dependent, obviously, when is our station going to be done? We've got the new one going at Moccasin Wallow. We've got the house and parish. We have a number of stations that are planned. So we're very fortunate. We have good relationships with the fire districts. And so, that's when they present their plan, EMS is typically part of that conversation.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir? Yes.
To ask, I was holding my question to the question back. With damage assessment, is that done by code enforcement? And are residents required to allow them to come in?
You are not required to. At some point, though, that resident will be required to work with like the FEMA inspector that's going to come in. If you're claiming that your home was major or destroyed, that has to be substantiated. And what they're really looking for is the water line. So the water line, I'm going to throw the number out because what I last remember, so don't quote me that this is what it is right now. 3 feet water line in a home of water that's not contaminated, meaning you weren't by a lift station that failed and we know there's raw sewage in the water. 3 feet is that threshold. Your home is now majorly damaged or destroyed because you had 3 feet of water in it. If the water was contaminated, so when I say we're targeting damage assessments, I'm specifically looking for areas that were located where lift stations failed. Because when lift stations fail, gross comes out of the ground, right? 3 inches of water is major or destroyed. And I don't care what house you're living in, because the cleanup is significantly different. You can't just pull the drywall, cut it out. That's a whole different can of worms, right? So no, I am never going to tell a resident, you are going to let my officer come into your house and see that water line, or you are going to cooperate with development services that comes out there. That's not my business. We want to get the assistance. If you don't want it, you're not comfortable with it, that's perfectly okay. But just know that at some point, you are going to have to let someone into your home to substantiate that damage.
And if all that is done, and then if and when code enforcement shows back up, and they're not allowed to go in, then what?
So for that next step of the process, though, that's not code enforcement. Okay. Code enforcement is the initial within immediate post landfall to probably we usually shoot for no more than 2 or 3 days. That's what code enforcement is doing. We do also put something of a moratorium on issuing violations. If your house numbers are missing, if you're piling furniture and debris and clothes and stuff on the side of the road, they're not going to cite you for that. I don't think we started citing people, again, for debris or down trees or anything like that until like a month ago. I think was when the first violations started coming out. The only exception to that really has been like unpermitted work being done. They will do that. But other than that, we do our very best to make sure that we're not violating people who suffered hurricane damage.
Closing roadways. That's coordinated through public safety and emergency, but there is a process in place for closing roadways, because there's always probably at least 5 to 12% of the county that's under construction.
So during a storm, if a roadway is closing because of flooding or washouts or a hazard, that's coordinated through the operations center. Blue skies, if it's construction, now I'm really going to irritate everybody. That actually is coordinated through either Public Works and Development Services, who is looking at the land development code to make sure that they're putting everything where it's supposed to be. Depending on the road, it could also be Florida Department of Transportation with Florida Highway Patrol involved to do traffic control. And if it's a private road and it's a private vendor that's doing it that needs to close it, then that's a whole different can of worms. Blue skies, things are way more complicated. Gray skies is pretty simple. We just say close that road and the road closes. It's kind of magical. Yes.
When a hurricane is coming and afterwards, when do you bring your people off the road and when do you let them back out again?
So the wind threshold is what we're looking at. So for emergency services to continue running, this is EMS, fire. I'm not going to commit law enforcement to it because their vehicles are a much lower profile. It is sustained winds of 35 miles an hour or gusts of 45. So when we're tracking those gusts or that sustained wind, that's when we pull rescue. This year, what will be different though, is typically when they say we have to suspend rescue, that's just kind of a blanket, okay, everyone stay off the roads. But I have wind gauges now. I have the ability now to look at a countywide picture, and if the wind out in like Mayaca is not at that threshold, but the wind here at the coast is crazy, we can target that. We are working emergency services, our 4910. I love that Brett came and sat over there. They make that call. One thing to understand is I do not unilaterally, arbitrarily, on a whim, make decisions about response without talking to the experts. I don't know how to put out a fire. I'm going to go to this table and they're going to tell me I need X, Y, and Z to make this work. And I'm going to go, yep. And then I'm going to call the state and abuse the people I used to work with and say, give me the stuff and things that I'm asking for. That's the job of this room. We coordinate. We do not dictate. We do not demand. We coordinate and collaborate with everybody in this room when a storm is coming. So just know if there's a decision made about something that has to do with fire, I didn't make it. I might have supported it, but I don't tell them how to do their job. I don't tell the 16 desk how to do their job. It is our job to get them what they need.
Is the wind speed data available to the public?
So it can be. What we are trying to figure out is how to make that front-facing dashboard like available to refresh. But it is there's a lot of, like, trying to figure out how to do that front facing. That's a question for people smarter than me. Because a lot of the stuff is, I go, that's shiny. Can I have that? Or what if I wanted a dashboard that did this? And then we have magical people in our building that make it happen for us.
Jody, do you want to let them know about the colors of each of the ESFs and how that coordinates with the coordination process of doing what they do, doing what we do?
So I will let Matt come out and talk to that because he was the mastermind behind all of that. We are going to do a tour of our facility.